A while ago, I gave you all a chance to feature in a video, but I never told you how it was going to happen. I guess you can call me Mr. Mysterious the way I be moving these days.
Not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Alright, goofing aside, in this video I'm going to be reanimating the animations of my subscribers, but there's a twist. I'll be reanimating your videos in my style. To keep this video in good length, I'll only be doing this for 5 subscribers, and if the video gets 1,000 likes, I'll make a part 2. The first subscriber I'll be reanimating his work goes by the name Normal Animations. Now let's get right into it. As always, first things first, I'll create a project and set up my environment for animating. Before I get to animating, here's a quick analysis of the subscriber's animation I'll be working on. The black stickman fires out a blast, the yellow stickman then gets hit, and there's a closing explosion. Seems easy enough. Now that's out of the way, let's get back to animating. First, I'll have him pull out his hands in anticipation for the blast. I want the blast to have some sort of recoil to it, so he pulls back a little after hitting the move. I'll add a smear frame as the blast leaves and his arms swing back. Okay, now for the blast itself, I'll just draw some sort of fiery object and turn on the glow option for that layer to make it look better. Of course, I'll add some sparks to it as it moves at top speed, makes it feel natural. Finally, as the blast hits the yellow stickman, there's an explosion. I can't animate a fire type of explosion here cause that would take me more time, so I'll just stick to the smoke type instead. Luckily, for anyone that wants to learn to animate the smoke type explosion, I already made a couple of tutorials on it, so check out the tutorials playlist in the description and get to animating. After finishing up with the smoke explosion, I got to animating the yellow stickman as he got hit by the blast. I wanted it to happen in slow motion, and what better way to sell the effect than to use impact frames. I animated impact frames to show for about half a second. Animating with 24 frames per second meant 12 frames where needed to pull it off. Now I wouldn't want to yap too much, so enjoy this 1-minute impact frames animation time lapse. After adding the impact frames to the animation, I finished up on some minor details and exported it. I then edited it on KineMaster. Before I show the result, here's the subscriber's animation I reanimated. Alright, for the second subscriber, Slasher Tunes, something frustrating happened. While animating, I forgot to turn on the time-lapse for the animation, so I didn't have any footage for this part. Anyways, here's the animation and my reanimation. For the last subscriber of the video, I'll be reanimating the work of Gaster Animations. He's a good supporter of the channel, so y'all go check his animations out. Now this is the video I'll be reanimating in my style. Alright guys, you know the drill. First I set up my animation environment. Then, I get to planning out the animation. Basically, for this animation, I just gotta animate the stickman doing combo moves before finishing off with a lightning punch. I'll make the black stickman take a fight stance before whooshing out at top speed. I'll animate a couple of combo punches too, nothing really serious. I want him to throw 2 solid punches before the final finishing blow. That's where the lightning also comes in. Meanwhile, if you want to see me reanimating your animations again, let's get the video to 1,000 likes, just to keep track of the like count. You can also comment the number of likes you found the video at. After finishing up with the black stickman's moves I animated in the yellow stickman getting cooked, I didn't animate him fighting back, cause I wanted to pull off some sort of dummy combo. After animating the moves and animating the yellow stickman taking the punches, I added head to the black stickman next. After the black stickman got his head, I then added heads to the yellow stickman. At this point the main animation was done. What was left was to animate the effects, starting off with the smoke effect as the black stickman whooshes away. After animating the smoke effect, the next one to animate was my personal favorite, impact frames. I gotta say, the impact frames were the most detailed part of the animation. I really took my time for this one. I used the onion skin from the before frame to act as a guide to draw the impact frame lines. Alright, I'll allow you guys to enjoy the impact frames time-lapse. After drawing the impact frames, I added in a glow effect to make it look better, then I animated the lightning on another layer. Finally, I drew in a simple background. With this, I was done with the animation. Before I show the results, here's a replay of the subscriber's animation I reanimated. The first subscriber I'll be reanimating his work is Buster. Now, this is the animation I'll be working with. Pretty interesting animation. Seems like the red stickman sort of manifested a floating rock, then increased the size mid-air, before sending it off to the black stickman. Well, I already went over the animation. Time to open up Flip a Clip and get to work. Alright, first things first, I'll be animating the red stickman making his moves, basically him raising up his hands and manifesting the rock out of thin air. For this cut, I wanted the camera to sort of zoom out on him then show him raising up his hands. I made the rock appear with flashes of impact frames to exaggerate how fast it was formed, and let's be honest, you can never go wrong with impact frames. The next cut was supposed to look like a close-up of the stickman from a downward angle, but I was having a very hard time pulling it off. Eventually, I got it right and animated the stickman stretching out his hands to make the rock grow larger just like in my subscriber's animation. I animated the rock on a different layer so it doesn't conflict with the red stickman. After that, I added in the head to the stickman's body. After adding in the heads, I went to finish up with the impact frames animation. This took quite some time to draw. I mean, impact frames can be exhausting to draw, especially if you use thinner strokes, but it's always worth it at the end. Enjoy the short impact frames animation time-lapse. After I finished with the impact frames, I went back to readjust the head in the part of the animation where the stickman floated. Next, I went to his opponent, the black stickman, and added the heads to the stickman. Immediately after, on a layer below, I drew in the backgrounds, mostly just rocks and mountains. I didn't have enough time to draw backgrounds with detail. Drawing the backgrounds didn't take a lot of time. Within 15 to 20 minutes, I had already finished up with drawing and animating it. Now, after the backgrounds, I came back to work on the details, mostly the part of the ground that cracks open as the black stickman stomped the ground. You know, in the original animation, he brought out a rock from the ground to defend himself against the red stickman, so I stuck with that concept, making him crack the ground open, bringing up a rock for defense. After animating the rock coming out of the ground, I animated the cracks in the ground as the rock went up. Most times, tiny details like this spice up the animation. After animating the cracks, I animated tiny rocks popping out the ground. I animated this on ones to give a more fluid feel. While finishing up this part of the animation, I remembered that I hadn't drawn the impact frames on the last scene as the rocks smash each other. Well, I got to that next and spent the rest of my time on it. Since this took a while to animate, I'll leave you guys to enjoy the short time lapse. After the impact frames were drawn, I added in the last detail of the animation, the night sky background. I had previously drawn this on Ibis Paint. What do you guys think? Did I cook? After I added the backgrounds, I exported the project and edited it, but before I show the results, here's a replay of the subscriber's animation. Alright, for the second subscriber video I'll be working with, it's quite simple, just a short parkour animation sent by Benny Animations. Okay, time to animate. I started off with the backgrounds, nothing too serious, just two platforms colored black. Immediately after, I animated the stickman running and doing a flip off the first platform down to the second, then after, I added heads and called it a day. The animation sent by the third subscriber was something interesting, and I had a lot of fun animating this one, but before we go any further, let's take a look at the video sent by Blazing Animations. For a quick run-through of the animation, the stickman basically stands and charges up with lots of effects in the background. Seems pretty straightforward. Let's get to animating. I wanted the camera to zoom out of the black stickman while he was powering up. And to add a little spice to the animation, I animated a close-up of his face with him raising his head before the charge up. I added in heads and drew on the eyes on another layer before getting into the animation. I animated the aura waves with wiggly lines, but before they come out, I made blast waves come out of the stickman to anticipate the aura waves. After animating the red aura waves coming out the black stickman, I drew in white lines to show the fast movement of the waves. I also reduced the opacity to make the black stickman visible from behind the waves. After finishing up with that, I drew in the background on a different layer, just a simple desert type of background. I needed to save myself some time to animate the impact frames. I added impact frames at the frame where he powers up before the blast. It felt like the right place to add it in. When adding impact frames, I used the onion skin of the previous frame to act as a guideline for the white lines. Adding impact frames took quite some time, so I'll leave you to enjoy the time-lapse. After finishing up with the impact frames, I went on to add floating red bubbles to make the blast wave animation even better. I wanted it to sort of rise up slowly, so I animated it on ones. The more it rose, the smaller it became. Another effect I added to make the blast waves cooler was a yellow expanding band immediately after the explosion. I added sparks as he lit up his eye at the close-up shot of him lifting his head. I added glow to the impact frames, makes it look even better. Finally, I added dim red border lights to the animation, and with this I was done. I exported and edited the video, and this was the result. Before I show the results, here's a replay of the animation I was sent. For the 4th subscriber reanimation, we have a submission from Flawed Animations. Before I get to reanimating, here's the video I'll be working with. Basically, it's a combo move animation. One black stickman beats the heck out of the other one. Makes you wonder, when does the stickman violence end? Jokes aside, in the subscriber animation, one of the stickmen bursts out from the ground and starts spamming punches, so I animated the ground cracking open with a smoke blast pushing out the stickman. Just like the previous wave blast animation I did, this was similar, except the smoke fades up and out gently. Before I get back to the stickman animation, enjoy the short time-lapse of the wave blast effect animation. After the wave blast has been animated on a layer below, after reducing the opacity of the wave blast animation, I animated the other stickman jumping out and then easing into the scene while still in the air. Immediately he jumps into the scene, I animated him in slow motion, anticipating a heavy punch before finally landing the punch with speed on the other stickman. I used motion blur to show the speed as the black stickman runs into the dummy stick. After throwing the first punch and landing, I animated him as he winds up for another heavy punch. After throwing the second punch, he jumps into the air and makes the final move, a slam of the dummy stick to the ground. After slamming the dummy stick to the ground, the stickman then takes a rest pose. I finished the animation here. Immediately after, I drew in the backgrounds and animated them, especially at the parts requiring impact. After adding in the background frame by frame, I exported and edited the animation, but before I show you the result, here's a replay of the video I reanimated. Finally, we've come to the end of the video, the final subscriber reanimation. For the 5th subscriber's animation, I'll be going with this video from AstroGamer 519. The animation is quite simple. One stickman runs into the other and gets blasted. Let's get to reanimating. I animated the stickman moves and immediately went to finish up the background. Nothing too serious, a similar background to the previous ones I've been using. I drew in some crack lines and tiny rocks to show the roughness of the ground. Before the stickman does the blast, the frame where he had his hands out, I animated the other stick figure move in with high speed, then slowed down to throw a heavy punch. Unfortunately, his punch didn't land. He instead got obliterated by the blast. As he got hit from the blast, I animated his body fade away piece by piece. I used the onion skin from the previous frame as a guide. I had a lot of fun animating this part. I also animated white lines parallel to the blast on the ground. There's supposed to be a shadow of the bright beam blast. I finished up, exported, and edited my video, but as usual before I show my result, here's a replay of the subscriber's animation. The first subscriber I'll be reanimating, his work goes by the name Kittens, and this is the part of the animation I'll be reanimating. At first, I was kinda confused about the animation, but eventually I said it's my reanimation, and I can do what I want. With this newfound motivation, I began animating. I opened up Flip a Clip and got to animating, but first, allow me to explain the short storyboard I made up for this reanimation. The idea is to make the first stickman summon lightning. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be lightning, but it kinda looks like it. Next, the other stickman blasts out lasers, then the animation ends. It's pretty straightforward. I animated lightning surrounding some sort of energy ball in the hands of the stickman, similar to what we saw in my subscriber's animation. Of course, I'm speeding up the time-lapse. In reality, this lightning took about 3 hours to animate. While the lightning surrounds the ball, I animated the ball grow slightly larger each frame as the stickman raises his hands up. After I was done with the character animation, I imported in a background I drew on Ibis Paint and added it in frame by frame. Once the background was done, all I had to do was finish up the animation by adding little touches. I drew some wind lines whooshing past at a close-up cut of the red stickman, and I added shadows to the animation. After finishing my reanimation, I edited it and added sound effects. Now before I show the result, here's a replay of the animation I was sent. So, what do you guys rate the reanimation? In my opinion, we're off to a good start. I think I'd give the animation a 6 out of 10. It could be better, but I'm just lazy sometimes. Now on to the next subscriber. Okay, this animation was sent by Monkey. This one really impressed me. I like how the characters use their abilities creatively. For the reanimation, I'll keep it similar, but I'll make a few tweaks. Just like in the animation I got sent, the red stickman brings out fire from his hands and the green one dodges at super speed. After dodging, he makes a punch straight to the back of the red stickman. While the red stickman falls forward, he blasts himself upright with his fire abilities, and he turns the fall into a counterattack by pushing himself back and throwing a punch at the green stickman. Just in case you're lost, here's a quick storyboard of the reanimation. First, the red stickman blasts at the green stickman. The green stickman then dodges and lands a punch on the red stickman. While the red stickman falls forward, he pushes himself back up with his fire, then goes in for a counter punch. While the red stickman tried to catch a break, the green stickman slams into him again at super speed. Of course, when animating my character fights, most times I animate the characters one after the other. In this part, I animated the red stickman first, then added in the green stickman on another layer. After animating the green stickman running at super speed, I went back to the in-between motion blur frames. As always, if you want to learn how I animate stuff like this, be sure to check out the tutorials playlist in the description below. In the next cut, while the green stickman is going crazy whooshing around, I decided to add my twist. Instead of doing a body slam like in the reanimation, the red stickman waits for the perfect time, then strikes. He choke grabs the green stickman mid-run. While he has the green stickman in a chokehold, I animated him stretch out his other hands. He then charges up and blasts himself forward with the green stickman still on hold. And of course, to bring the animation to an end, I'll animate them slamming into a mountain. So basically, the red stickman grabs then slams the green one into the mountain. For this cut, I drew up a few mountains as the background. I went back to it heads to the stickman after I had finished animating the moves, and then finally it was time to animate the fire effect. I animated the fire on once to give it a more dynamic feel. I then animated the little particles of flames coming out the sides of the fire as well. Animating the fire effect took a lot of time, but I really enjoyed the process. Let me know if you guys think the fire effect looks decent. At the second to the last cut, he stretches out his hands and blasts forward with his flames. To really sell this effect, I had to animate the fire effect properly, giving it enough energy and life. The whole idea is that he generates a really heavy blast that pushes him forward. I animated the fire blast in this one similar to a fast spreading wave. This was the best way I could think of. I think it gives the momentum effect I'm looking for from a blast. After finishing up with the blast effect, I animated the explosion blast from when they both slam into the mountains. At this point, the animation was slowly coming to an end. After I had finished up with the character animation and effects, I went back to draw and add background for each frame. The idea was a simple desert-like background. To be honest, that was the fastest and easiest thing I could come up with. The whole animation in general probably took me about 7 hours. Of course, I had breaks in between them. I animated the ground crack as the red stickman hits and misses. I then went back to add little touches to the fire effect. I did this to make the fire look better. I personally think it worked. After doing that, I finished up the animation and exported it for editing. Before we see the results, let's rewatch the animation sent by my subscriber. Well guys, that was my reanimation. What do you guys think? The next animation is from a subscriber called Aggies Does Animation. It's something short, but I really liked the impact frames and the character's aura. Here's the animation I got sent. I opened up Flip a Clip and got to animating immediately. I've got a simple idea I wanted to animate. Basically, I wanted the stickman to maintain his aura just like in the subscriber's animation. And what better way to do it than to make the stickman slowly rise into the air, then make his blast? It sounds simple enough. Time to lock in and animate. As usual, I started with the character animation first. I animated the stickman slowly rising off the ground at a close-up cut of his legs. Next, it transitioned to a cut with a wide shot of the stickman. Here, I animated him raising his hands in anticipation for a blast. After I was done with the character animation, I went back to it heads to the stickman. At the part where he puts out his hand for a blast, I added some impact frames to show the intensity of the blast, just like in my subscriber's animation. If you're a regular viewer on the channel, you'll know that I enjoy animating impact frames, and I've made a couple of tutorials on them as well. So if you want to learn, be sure to check the playlist in the description. After animating impact frames and adding glow to it, all that's left is to animate the blast effect. As usual, I animated the blast effect on ones. I added particles flying out the stickman's hand as well. The reason I did this was to show the intensity of the explosion. After animating the blast effect, the next cut was a wide shot of the stickman flying in the air. In this cut, as he raises his hands up, he lets out a sudden blast. The main idea is for the blast to flash across the screen and tear open the ground. It's a pretty common concept at anime fight scenes. Basically, the blast is so hot that it straight up melts the ground to lava. On a separate layer, I animated the lava forming as the ground gets hit and the blast flashes across the screen. Another way I really sold the lava effect was to animate the liquid particles slowly floating out. Towards this part, I was almost done with the animation as this was the final cut. After I animated the lava, I went back to animate the background for the other cuts of the animation. After drawing the mountains, I imported a night sky background I had drawn on Ibis Paint and added it into the animation. After adding the backgrounds, the animation was pretty much done. All I had to do was add a few details. Before I show the results, here's the animation I got sent.